Okay everyone, so this is my first video on logistics and supply chain management education YouTube series. Um, so this is the first video of what I plan to be sort of a tutor or guide for learning about logistics and supply chain management concepts, along with other business model concepts as well. This first one, I'm going to give an introduction to and a small summary of Incoterms. And Incoterms is terms, and first off we have first question I want to ask is what are Incoterms? So the Incoterms are relevant for exporters and importers. And in the case of an exporter selling products to a foreign company, there are numerous tasks involved in moving the products from the exporter to the importer. And these tasks can include the clearing of products for exportation, the organization of transportation methods between the importer and the exporter, the clearing of products for importation. So as you can see, that these tasks can be can be pretty complicated, and they can be. So we use Incoterms to sort of define who is responsible for each of these tasks. So as a consequence of this predicament, terms of trade are necessary in the importer and exporter's respective roles in completing the task of moving goods. So, in 1936, the International Commerce Commission created the 13 International Commerce Terms, and hence the acronym Incoterms. And all terms apply to ocean carriers, while 7 are only applicable to air, rail, truck, and other intermodal transportation. And there's 4 main groups, and you can see this here on the chart. We have the E group, we have the F group, we have the C group, and we have the D group. And the 4 groups, in generally speaking, with the E group, and you can see there's only just one. The E group has the responsibility of the importer. Basically, almost all, as you can see from the chart, almost all the responsibilities, as you can see for the key, we have the blue as the importer. And you can see from the E term, EXW, that almost all of the responsibilities in the logistics of getting the products from the exporter to the importer are delegated upon the importer. Now, if we look at the F group, the main carriage is not paid by the exporter. And we can see that right here. So we can see that under the F terms, the exporters are responsible for the packaging, and they're also responsible for the inland freight payments within the exporting country and the exporting clearance, along with any charges and responsibility, and has a responsibility of shipping the goods from origin to destination. And if we look here at the C terms, the main carrier is paid by the exporter. So if we look at this, the C terms, exporter has a little bit more responsibilities in a sense, but does not have a responsibility in issues such as import clearing of imports within the importing country, as well as duty payments, custom duty payments, and inland freight payments within the importing country under the C terms. And lastly, the D terms, this is pretty much says that the exporter will have full responsibility in transporting the goods from the exporting country to the importing country. And we can see that right here. And so what do they define? The Incoterms will define the assignments for the exporter, assignments for the importer, and activities paid by the importer and the exporter. And also, the Incoterms will define the time when responsibility of goods will take place from the exporter to importer. But this is a little bit of a controversial point because it is often difficult to determine the change in responsibility of goods between the exporter and importer. And this is due because the transferring of responsibility of the goods between the importer and exporter is always dictated by the choice of Incoterms. But the transfer of ownership usually occurs when importer has paid the exporter or conducted another action written in the contract between parties. Next question is, why do we have Incoterms, and now you can develop a strategy for it. If you're developing an Incoterms strategy, the exporter can gain the attention of an in-demand with the exporter. The exporter can gain the attention of an in-demand importer if by formally following Incoterms and is willing to pay and or take responsibility of certain transportation activities. So, if there's an in-demand importer, if the exporter decides to offer the terms of trade being the D arrangement, you can see here that the exporter will take over the responsibilities and probably relieve some stress on the importer side. So you can see that strategy for the exporter. The importers, however, they could save on its price of exported goods if they are willing to perform a sizable share of the cost. So if there's an exported good in demand, you can see here that it can be in the importer's best strategy to possibly take on the EXW term, the E terms, or the F terms here, as that he is responsible and probably in paying for a lot of the shipping arrangements. Now if we go through a summary of the terms here, there's first off the term here that EX works. And this one, we can see here, it's ideal for the exporter but least desirable for the importer. The exporter, his only responsibilities are to properly package the goods and provide all documentation. The importer has responsibilities for clearing goods for imports, the transportation arrangements, clearing goods for import, insurance purchases should that be necessary, and a provision of domestic transportation within the domestic country or the importer's country. So you can see here from the chart that the importer has a good share of the responsibilities in the movement of the products. Now if we look at the F terms, FCA, FAS, and FOB. So overall the exporter has responsibilities for packaging and clearing goods for exportation. FCA, free carrier, can be used with any mode of transport, while the free FAS and the FOB, the free alongside ship and the free on board, are only used with water-based transportation methods. The FOB has a task for the exporter, though, to pay for the loading of products onto the ship. So you can see that right here, that under the FCA and the FAS, that the exporter is responsible for packaging, along with the inland freight payments within its respective country, the clearing of goods for export, and the shipping from origin to destination. And then if we look though at the FOB, though, that the exporter also has a responsibility to load the goods onto the carrier before it is shipped out. Next one we have here is the four terms, the CFR, CIF, CPT, and CIP. And in this one, the exporter garners and pays for the carrier carriage along with cargo insurance. Now the cargo insurance is only applicable to the CIF and the CIP. Cost in CFR can only be used with the water-based transportation, while CPT, carrier paid to, can be used in any transportation mode arrangement. The CIF, cost, source, and freight, and the CIP, carriage and insurance paid to, obligate the same roles as CFR and CPT, but with the inclusion of cargo insurance paid by the exporter. So they're basically the same. The CIP and the CIF are the same as the CFR and the CBT, with the only difference that these two have the inclusion of cargo insurance paid by the exporter. And you can see that here when it comes to insurance, that the insurance payments are not really defined in the Incoterms. They're only defined under the CIF and the CIP. And you can see that these can usually, the insurance arrangements wouldn't be delegated by the Incoterms, but rather would be delegated within the contract itself. Alright, lastly, we have the DES, DEQ, DAF, DDU, and DDP. And overall, all D terms mandate that the exporter pay for all costs in relation to shipping and delivery. DES, delivered at ship, and DEQ, delivered at square, are only exclusive to water-based transportation, and while DAF, delivery at frontier, DDU, delivery duty unpaid, and DDP, delivery duty paid, are applicable to all forms of transport. DAF is more or less designated for land-based transportation, while DDU and DDP are often used in replacement, as transfer of responsibilities are rather ambiguous under DAF. Basically, what happens with DAF is they'll set like a certain location, ambiguous location, for the transfer of responsibilities between the exporter and importer. So, for example, it might state DAF, German-France border, and it's very ambiguous, so it's not really used. Oh, sorry. And DDU and DDP are analogous, with the difference lying on the basis that DDP necessitates the exporter paying for the clearing of products into the importing country along with customs duties. And you can see that responsibilities right here. This is the first video I've ever done as a tutor. This is the first tutor-based video I've ever done, so I hope some folks may find this helpful, and please comment if you have any criticisms or questions, and I will see you later.